Hi, I'm Joe Coffey, co-author with Bob Bevington of the book Red Like Blood, Confrontations with Grace. And I want to tell you why we call it Confrontations with Grace and Red Like Blood, because I think there's a certain kind of violence that comes with grace. And a lot of people don't understand that. If you don't get that, I'm not sure you get grace at all. And the reason, people think that grace is kind of sweet and soft, and I don't think so. The Bible talks about grace like it's the most powerful force that's ever been unleashed on the earth. It's the only thing powerful enough to actually change the human heart. And one of our premises is that grace is more like a liquid than a solid. And so when it enters somebody's life, there's no telling where it's going to go. But in order to get into somebody's life, there has to be a certain kind of brokenness, or it doesn't get in at all. And that's the violence. And that's the confrontation. And whenever I'm talking to somebody about the relationship with God, I look for that brokenness, because it's got to be there. And virtually every chapter in our book is about that brokenness one way or another, and how grace enters in, and then what grace does, which is awesome. A guy named George came to my office not too long ago. George is like 80. Okay, he sits down, and I'm talking to him about his life, and he looks at me and he says, Joe, I went to an Ivy League school, and the Ivy League educated my faith right out of me. And I became an agnostic and an atheist for the next 50 years. 50 years, he said. And then he said, my granddaughter got sick, and it looked like she was going to die, and I didn't know what to do. Okay, if you can feel the brokenness coming, can't you? I mean, there's pressure. And he says, I finally went into a church, and I sat down, and he looked at me and he said, Joe, I bargained with God. I was that arrogant. And then he smiled and he said, and he even forgave me of that too. And right then I knew George had had a confrontation with grace. That's what it looks like. And now George's life is completely changed. You can just see the joy inside of him. That's the force that God unleashed on the world. He calls it grace. It flows red like blood. And it's a confrontation like none other. And our hope is, as you read the book, you'll be confronted with grace in such a way that it will sweep into your heart and change you as well.